Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Wicked. So we start the City of Emeralds now. Okay, so this particular section doesn't really have any chapters. So I am just going to read as much as I can and I will stop eventually. On a clammy late summer evening about 3 years after graduating from Shiz University, Fiyero stopped at the Unionist Chapel in St. Glinda Square to pass some time before meeting a fellow countryman at the opera. Fiyero hadn't taken Unionism as a student, but he had developed an eye for frescoes that often adorned the cubbyholes of older chapel. He was hoping to find a portrait of St. Glinda. He had not seen Glinda of the Ardennes of the Uplands since her graduation. She had finished a year before he did, but he hoped it wouldn't be sacrilegious to light a charm wax candle in front of the St. Glinda's likeness, and to think of her namesake. A service was ending, and the congregation of sensitive adolescent boys and black-garbed grandmothers drifted slowly out. Fiyero waited until the lyre player in the nave had finished lingering a tricky diminuet that he approached her. "Do forgive me, I'm a visitor from the West." Well, obviously, with his rich ochre skin color and tribal markings, I don't see a sexton, a verger, a sacristan, whatever the word is, nor can I find a pamphlet to tell me. I was looking to find an icon of St. Glinda. Her face remained grave. "You'll be lucky if it hasn't been papered over with the poster of our glorious wizard. I'm an internet musician, only through this way once in a while, but I think you might look in the last aisle. There's an oratory to St. Glinda, or used to be. Good luck locating it," a tomb-like space with an archer's slit instead of a true window. Fiyero saw, lit by a pinkish sanctuary light, a smoky image of the saint leaning a bit to the right. The portrait was merely sentimental and not a robustly primitive, a disappointment. Water damage had made great white stains like laundry soap mistakes on the saint's holy garments. He couldn't remember her particular legend, nor the uplifting way she had gagged on death for the sake of her soul and for the edification of her admirers. Then he saw, in the underway of the shadows, that an oratory was inhabited by a penitent. The head was bowed in prayer, and he was about to move away when he struck him that he knew who it was. "Elphaba," he said. She turned her head slowly. A lace shawl dropped to her shoulders. Her hair was looped on her head and skewered with ivy hair corkscrews. Her eyes battered once or twice slowly, as she were moving toward him from a great distance away. He had interrupted her at prayer. He hadn't remembered her to be religious, but maybe she didn't recognize him. "Elphaba, it's Fiyero," he said, moving to the doorway, blocking her in an almost low light. Suddenly he could see her face and wondered if she had heard correctly what she said. "I beg your pardon, sir?" "Elfie, I'm Fiyero. We were at Shiz," he said. "My splendid Elfie, how are you?" "Sir, I believe you were mistaking me for someone else," she said in Elphaba's voice. "Elphaba, the third descending, if I remember the non-menacler," he said, laughing stoutly. "I'm not mistaken at all. I'm Fiyero of the Argikis. You know me. You remember me from Dr. Nicodick's lectures in the life sciences." "You have confused yourself," she said. "Sir," the last word sounded a bit shirty. "Absolutely, Elphaba. Now, you don't mind if I'm about my devotions and peace?" She drew her shawl up to her head and arranged it before her temples. The chin and profile could slice the salami. Even in the low light, he knew he wasn't wrong. "What is it?" he said. "Elfie. Well, Miss Elphaba, if you require." "Don't shab me like this. Of course it's you. There's no disguising you. What are you on about?" She didn't answer him in words, but by telling her beads ostensibly she was telling him to get lost. "I'm not going," he said. "You're interrupting my meditation, sir." She said softly. Do I have to call the verger and have you removed? I'll meet you outside, he said. How long do you need to pray? Half an hour? An hour? I'll wait. In an hour, then, across the street, there's a small public fountain with some benches. I'll talk to you for 5 minutes. 5 minutes only, to show you've made a mistake. Not a serious one, but increasingly annoying to me. Forgive the intrusion. In an hour, then. Elphaba. He wasn't going to let her get away with whatever game she was playing. He drew, however, and went to the musician in the back of the nave. Is there another exit to this building besides the main doors? He asked, with her spurts of arpeggio. When it was convenient to answer them, she tucked her head and moved her eyes. Side door through the cloister of the mounts. It's not open to the public, but you can get to the servants' delivery alley through there. He lingered in the shadow of a pillar. In about 40 minutes, a cloaked figure appeared, entered the chapel, and moved, hobbling with a cane, directly to the oratory Elphie occupied. He was too far away to hear her words exchanged or anything else. Perhaps the newcomer was merely another disciple of St. Glinda, the one that solid true to pray. The finger didn't linger, to lift again as quickly as stiff joints would allow. Fiyero dropped an offering in the poor box, a note, so to avoid the clink of a coin. In a quarter of the city so infested with urban poor, his situation of comparative wealth required the penitential gift, though his motivation was carried by more guilt than charity. Then he slipped outside through the side door in an overgrown cloister garden. Some ancient women in wheelchairs were chortling at the end and didn't notice him. He wondered if Elphaba belonged to this community of monastic nuns. Mounts, they were called. He remembered how the females living in the most paradoxal of institutions, a community of hermits. Apparently, however, their vows of silence were revoked in the decay of old age. He decided that Elphaba couldn't have changed that much in 5 years, so he let himself out of the servants' entrance in the alleyway. 3 minutes passed, and Elphaba emerged through the same servants' entrance as he suspected she would. She was intent on avoiding him. Why? The last he had seen of her, he remembered it well, was the day of Alma Clutch's funeral, and was the drunken party at the pub. She had fled to the Emerald City on some obscure mission never to return, while he had been dragged off to the eye-opening joys and terrors of the Philosophy Club. The rumor held that her great-grandfather, the eminent Throp, had engaged agents to look for her in Shiz. In the Emerald City, from Elphaba herself, there was never a postcard, never a message, never a clue. Nesserode had been inconsolable at first, and then grew to resent her sister's putting through the pain of separation. Nessa had lost herself deeper in religion, to the point where her friends had begun to avoid her. Tomorrow Fiyero would make his apologies known for missing the opera and standing up as business colleague. Tonight he would not lose Elphaba. As she hurried through the streets, checking over her shoulder more than once, he thought, if you were trying to lose someone, if you did think someone was on your trail, this is the time of day to do it. Not because of shadows, but because of light. Elphaba kept turning corners, and the summer sun, that setting, was blinding drafts of light along the streets, through arcades, over the walls of gardens. But he had, in many years of practice at stalking animals under similar conditions, nowhere in Oz was the sun as much an adversary as in the 1,000-year grasslands. He knew to squint his eyes and follow the persistence of motion and forget about identifying the shape. He also knew how to duck sideways without tipping over or losing his balance, how to couch suddenly, how to look for clues that prey, how begin to start to move again. The startled birds, the change in sound, the disrupted wind. She could not lose him, and she could not know that he was on her trail. So he would, halfway across the city, from the elegant city center on the low-rent warehouse districts, and those shadowy doorways, the destitute made their malodorous homes. Within spitting distance of an army barracks, Elphaba stopped before a boarded-up corn exchange. ferreted a key from some inner pocket and opened the door. He called from a short distance in an ordinary voice, "Fabala!" Even in the act of turning, she caught herself and tried to rearrange her expression. But it was too late. She had shown that she had recognized him, and she had realized it. His foot was blocking the way before she could slam the heavy door shut. Are you in trouble? He asked. Leave me alone, she said. Please, please. You're in trouble. Let me in. You're in trouble. Stay out. Pure Elphaba. His last doubt fled. He cracked the door open within his shoulder. You're making me into a monster, he said, grunting with the effort. She was so strong. I'm not going to rob you or rape you. It just won't be ignored like that. Why? She gave up then he stupidly fell against the plastered brick wall of the stairwell like a pratfalling twit in a vaudeville hour. I remember for you as a delicacy of grace, he said. Did you catch something by accident, or did you study awkwardness? Come on, he said. You forced me into behaving like a clumping boar. You gave me no choice. Don't be so surprised. I can manage grace. I can do delicacy. Half a minute. She has got to you, she said. Eyebrows up, but mockingly. She wasn't really surprised. Listen to those graduate school affection. Where's the native voice seeking that appealing naivete like a well-chosen musk? You're looking well, too, he said, a bit hurt. Do you live in the stairwell, or we're going to be someplace even a little bit homey? She cursed and mounted the stairs. They were covering with mouse turds and scrapes of packing straw. A soupy evening light seeped from the green gray glass windows. At a bend in the stairs, a white cat was waiting, haunted and disaffected like all its kin. Malky, Malky, meow, meow, said Elphaba as she passed in a design to follow her up the pointy archway door at the top of the stairs. You're familiar? Said Fiyero. Oh, that's rich, said Elphaba. Well, I'd soon be thought of as a witch as anything else. Why not? Here, Malky, here's some milk. The room was large, and it seemed only casually arranged for dwelling. Originally a storeroom, it had barricaded doors that could be swung outward to receive or dispense sacks of grain hauled up by a witch from the street. The only natural light fell through a couple of cracked panes of glass and a skylight open 4 or 5 inches. Pigeon feathers and white and bloody flux on the door floor below. 8 or 10 crates in a circle as if for sitting. A bedroll. Clothes folded on a trunk. Some odd feathers, bits of bone, strung teeth, and a wizened dodo claw, brown and twisted like beef jerky. They were hung on nails pounding the wall, arranged the art for a spell. A swallowwood table, nice piece of furniture at that, with 3 arching legs tapered down to elegantly carved dough hoes. A few tin plates, red with white speckles, some food wrapped in cloth and cord. A pile of books at the bedside, a cat toy tied up with string. Most effectively and gruesomely, the skull of an elephant hung on the rafter, and a bouquet of dried, creamy milk roses emerged from the central hole in the hull of its cranium, like the exploding brains of a dying animal. He couldn't help thinking, remembering Elphaba's youthful concerns, or maybe an homage to the putative magical talents of elephants. Below it hung like a crude glass oval, scratched and chirpy, used as a looking glass, perhaps, though its reflective qualities appeared unreliable. So this is home, said Fiyero, as Elphaba brought up some food for the cat and ignored Fiyero some more. Ask me no questions and I'll spell you no lies, she said. May I sit down? That's a question, but she was grinning. Oh well, sit for 10 minutes and tell me about yourself. How did you of all people turn into a sophisticate? Appearances are deceiving, he said. I can afford the garb and affect the language, but I'm still an Arjiki tribal boy underneath. So what's your life like? Is there something to drink? Not alcohol, just thirsty. I don't have running water. I don't use it. There's some questionable milk. At least Malky will still drink it. Or perhaps a little bottle available on the shelf. Help yourself. and I'm gonna stop right there, and I will pick up this tomorrow. Bye.